It's something most of us reach for without a second thought. A quick pick-me-up during a busy afternoon, a social staple at gatherings, or perhaps a comforting ritual to start the day. But what if that everyday habit, seemingly harmless, was quietly putting pressure on a part of your body you rarely think about? Your bladder? Let's begin with a simple truth. Not all beverages are created equal when it comes to how your body reacts. Some hydrate, others stimulate, and a few, quite surprisingly, inflame. And it's not just the obvious sugary offenders. Even those labeled as diet, zero-calorie, or natural can be part of a cycle that silently irritates your bladder and promotes swelling in your lower abdomen. Now, before we dive deeper, here's something important you'll want to hear. Toward the end of this guide, I'll be sharing a little-known bonus strategy, one that's often overlooked but can significantly improve your urinary health when applied correctly. And yes, it's something you can start doing today. So stay with me until the end, because understanding the full picture can make all the difference. Here's why this matters. The bladder is a surprisingly sensitive organ. It's built to hold and release waste, but when certain ingredients consistently irritate its lining, that tissue can swell, become inflamed, and trigger sensations that range from mild discomfort to a pressing urgency to urinate. For some, this might show up as bloating. For others, it can feel like an unshakable pressure low in the abdomen, as if something heavy is sitting there all day long. These symptoms can sneak in gradually. At first, they might be easy to dismiss. Perhaps you're just tired, or you didn't sleep well. But over time, if the root cause isn't addressed, that subtle pressure can evolve into something more disruptive. It can affect how often you need the restroom. It can change your sleep. It might even alter the way you socialize or exercise. And yet, many people never trace it back to the drink in their hand. You see, our bodies are constantly working to maintain balance, especially in the urinary system. But when we consume certain popular beverages, especially those high in caffeine, artificial sweeteners, and acids, we push our bladder out of that balance. These compounds don't just pass through. They interact with the tissue, affect fluid retention, and in some cases, even alter the pH of the bladder environment, creating an internal setting that encourages irritation. This isn't about eliminating all of life's little pleasures. It's about being conscious, about learning how ingredients interact with your system so you can make choices that support rather than sabotage your well-being. The truth is, most people have no idea their drink is playing a part in the discomfort they feel. And once you understand the mechanics behind it, the solution becomes much clearer. Imagine this. You change one daily habit, a simple beverage swap, and within a few days, you notice less bloating. You feel lighter. You sleep more soundly. That low abdominal tightness starts to fade. Your body feels less on edge. This isn't a miracle. It's physiology, and it starts by questioning what you consume every day without thinking twice. And remember, the true danger isn't always immediate. It's cumulative. Every sip of an irritant might seem insignificant, but over time, the effects can build. If you're someone who frequently feels discomfort or just wants to optimize your internal health naturally, identifying these triggers is a powerful first step. The beverage we'll discuss more specifically soon is one of the most commonly consumed in North America. It's found in nearly every home, every vending machine, and every restaurant. It's praised for its energy-boosting effects, and sometimes even marketed as part of a healthy lifestyle. But its long-term impact, especially on bladder health, is far less talked about. Stick around, because what comes next will open your eyes to the scientific findings behind this drink, and more importantly, what happens inside your body when you consume it regularly. We're only scratching the surface, and the next insight is one of the most crucial. Overlooking it could mean not only fewer results in your health journey, but also some unintended side effects that are best avoided altogether. Let's talk about what science is revealing, because when we start to look beneath the surface of our daily habits, surprising truths often emerge. While the symptoms linked to bladder discomfort may seem vague or easily attributable to stress or hydration levels, research shows something deeper is often at play. One of the most intriguing findings in recent years has to do with the subtle yet persistent effects of certain compounds we consume almost daily. Caffeine, for instance, is far more than just a mental stimulant. In medical studies, it's been shown to have a direct impact on the bladder lining, increasing the urgency to urinate, and in some cases, provoking what's known as detrusor overactivity. Essentially, your bladder contracting when it shouldn't. But it doesn't stop there. Caffeine also acts as a mild diuretic, pulling water from your tissues and increasing urine production, which then causes more stretching and activity in the bladder walls. That might sound harmless at first, but over time, this excess strain can contribute to inflammation and swelling, especially if your body's already under stress. But caffeine isn't alone. Many popular beverages, especially sodas, energy drinks, and even some bottled teas, contain not just caffeine, but also acids like phosphoric acid and citric acid. These acids alter the pH levels in your bladder, making the internal environment more irritating. When combined with preservatives and artificial flavors, the impact intensifies. What was once just a refreshing sip becomes a long-term irritant your body has to manage every single day. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The bladder is lined with a protective layer called the urothelium. Its role is to act as a barrier, shielding deeper tissues from the waste and chemicals that pass through. But prolonged exposure to irritants can weaken this barrier, allowing inflammatory compounds to penetrate more deeply. In turn, this can trigger pain signals, contribute to chronic swelling, and even make you more prone to infections or sensitivity. It's no coincidence that people who consume high volumes of soda or energy drinks often report frequent urination, pelvic discomfort, or even low back tightness. The body is trying to adapt to the ongoing stress. Over time, these adaptations can evolve into persistent symptoms that interfere with daily life. And again, most people don't connect the dots between their favorite beverage and their bladder's reaction. Think of it this way. Your bladder is a container, but also a communicator. When irritated, it doesn't just hold urine, it sends signals, creates tension, and can even affect your emotional state. There's a fascinating link between chronic bladder symptoms and increased stress or anxiety levels. The discomfort creates a feedback loop. Irritation leads to urgency, urgency leads to stress, and stress further intensifies inflammation. What's both empowering and encouraging is that your body can often reset when given the right support. Reducing intake of these bladder irritants and choosing more alkalinizing, anti-inflammatory drinks can begin healing the urothelium in a matter of days. Think herbal infusions with anti-inflammatory properties, such as chamomile or marshmallow root. These not only soothe internal tissues, but can also calm the nervous system, a double win when it comes to bladder resilience. This doesn't mean cutting out everything you enjoy. It means shifting habits with intention. If you're reaching for 3 or 4 caffeinated sodas or teas a day, start by replacing just one with a soothing alternative. Watch how your body responds. Often, just a slight change is enough to notice the difference. And that's incredibly motivating. When you feel better, you want to keep going. But before we dive into specific solutions, it's essential to understand that some of the most seemingly innocent combinations of ingredients are where the real danger lies. For instance, caffeine paired with artificial sweeteners, like aspartame or sucralose, has been shown to intensify bladder irritation more than either ingredient alone. This synergy isn't commonly discussed on labels, but your body definitely notices. It's not just the ingredients, it's how they interact. And this is exactly why reading beyond the front label of your favorite drink matters. Words like zero sugar, light, or natural flavor might feel reassuring, but what's inside tells a different story. If you're dealing with unexplained discomfort or urgency, these drinks could be playing a major role. Now that we've uncovered how everyday choices can directly impact the sensitivity and health of your bladder, it's time to go deeper. The next insight we're going to explore is perhaps one of the most crucial. Ignoring it won't just stall your progress, it might actually make things worse over time. So stay close, because what's coming next could change the way you view your daily routine entirely. By now, it's becoming clearer how daily habits, especially what we drink, can have a much deeper impact on our bladder health than most of us realize. And among the various compounds we've explored, one stands out not just for its effects, but for how subtly it integrates into our routines. Caffeine. It hides in plain sight, not only in coffee but in sodas, teas, energy drinks, and even some pain medications. It's everywhere, and its impact on the bladder goes beyond just making you run to the bathroom more often. Caffeine operates with a kind of double effect. First, it stimulates the central nervous system. This increases alertness and energy, but also triggers the smooth muscles in your bladder to contract more frequently. Second, it acts as a diuretic. This means your body pulls more fluids into the bladder, increasing the need to urinate. Now, when this happens occasionally, your body manages. But repeated daily exposure, especially in high amounts, can lead to chronic irritation. This chronic exposure means your bladder is not only working harder, but also being overstimulated. Think of it like a light switch being flicked on and off all day long. Over time, that switch wears down. For the bladder, this manifests as increased sensitivity, inflammation, and sometimes the development of symptoms similar to interstitial cystitis, a condition marked by persistent pelvic pain and pressure. What makes this more concerning is that caffeine rarely comes alone. In many popular drinks, especially sodas and energy drinks, it's paired with high levels of sugar or artificial sweeteners. And when caffeine meets these compounds, the potential for bladder irritation doesn't just double, it multiplies. Studies suggest that artificial sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose can independently provoke bladder symptoms, but their interaction with caffeine makes the bladder lining even more reactive. It's a synergy few people are aware of. Most just feel the effects: urgency, discomfort, and that nagging sense of never fully emptying the bladder. These symptoms are often brushed off or misattributed to dehydration or aging, but they can begin at any age and escalate if the root cause isn't addressed. Now, here's where awareness becomes power. By reducing your daily intake of caffeine, especially in combination with artificial sweeteners, you give your bladder a chance to recover. This doesn't mean eliminating caffeine altogether unless advised by a healthcare provider. But simple changes can make a difference. For instance, if you typically drink 3 cups of coffee or caffeinated soda a day, try switching one of those to a caffeine-free herbal tea known for its soothing properties. Chamomile, peppermint, or even ginger infusions can help calm the bladder lining and reduce internal stress. These swaps may seem small, but they give your bladder the break it needs. And when you combine this with proper hydration from clean water and bladder-friendly foods, you create an environment where healing is not only possible, it's expected. There's also a behavioral piece here. Many people drink caffeine during stressful periods to cope with fatigue or mental burnout. But the irony is, caffeine, while offering temporary alertness, often increases anxiety levels, tightens pelvic muscles, and heightens our stress response. All of this puts additional tension on the bladder. So, managing caffeine is about more than just bladder health. It's a holistic shift toward supporting your nervous system, reducing internal pressure, and giving your body a chance to rebalance. It's worth reflecting on how much of our caffeine consumption is habitual versus intentional. Are you reaching for that soda or energy drink because your body needs it, or because it's what you've always done at 3 p.m.? Becoming aware of this distinction can open the door to choices that truly support your well-being, rather than undermine it quietly over time. The deeper truth is this: when you consistently fuel your body with stimulants, you're asking it to perform at full speed without pause. Eventually, systems that require calm, like your bladder, begin to push back. Symptoms arise, signals fire off, and your body begins asking, sometimes desperately, for a change. The good news is that change doesn't have to be overwhelming. Start by reading the labels of the beverages you consume. Look not just at the caffeine content, but at the combination of ingredients. Be especially mindful of products that mix caffeine with sweeteners and acids. These are the ones most likely to irritate the bladder and trigger that cycle of swelling and pressure. There's more to explore, particularly around beverages that appear healthy but can actually intensify inflammation in subtle ways. What's coming next is a crucial insight, one that might just surprise you. And ignoring it not only limits your progress, but may also invite avoidable complications down the line. There's something inherently reassuring about picking up a beverage that's branded as healthy. The labels often promise hydration, antioxidants, detox, or metabolic support. And for anyone trying to make better choices, it feels like the right step, replacing sugary sodas with tea-based drinks, vitamin waters, or sparkling water infused with natural flavors. But what if some of those so-called healthy options are actually contributing to the very discomfort you're trying to avoid? Let's unpack this. Many bottled teas, flavored waters, and functional drinks carry a health halo. They're often low in sugar, low in calories, and packaged with words like clean, refreshing, or natural. But here's the tricky part. The ingredients inside don't always match the promise on the outside. In fact, a closer look often reveals a cocktail of additives: citric acid, benzoates, sorbates, artificial flavors, and sometimes a surprising amount of caffeine. Citric acid, while naturally found in citrus fruits, is commonly added in synthetic form to enhance shelf life and taste. But when consumed frequently, it can alter the pH balance of the bladder environment, making it more acidic and therefore more prone to irritation. This creates the perfect setting for inflammation, especially for individuals who already experience sensitivity in the urinary tract. Pair that with preservatives like sodium benzoate or potassium sorbate, which are meant to prolong shelf life, and you're adding more stress to an already vulnerable system. These compounds may not cause immediate symptoms in everyone, but in those who are susceptible, they can be enough to trigger discomfort, bloating, or urgency. Now, let's talk about the role of sweeteners. Even drinks that avoid sugar often use substitutes like sucralose or stevia derivatives. While stevia is plant-derived, its processed forms can still be irritating in some individuals. Sucralose in particular has been linked to increased bladder irritation in sensitive users. Again, the problem isn't just one ingredient. It's the interaction of several compounds within a single bottle that cumulatively stress the bladder. Even sparkling waters marketed as clean and refreshing can pose challenges. While carbonation itself isn't inherently harmful, for many people it increases feelings of bloating and puts pressure on the bladder wall. Add in natural flavors, which are often proprietary chemical blends, and the drink becomes less benign than it first appears. This all circles back to the importance of reading beyond the front label. Because even though a drink might advertise benefits like detox, the internal result may be the opposite: more inflammation, more urgency, and more discomfort. And that can lead to a frustrating cycle where you're trying to hydrate and support your health, but unintentionally exacerbating bladder symptoms. So what can you do? First, simplify your choices. Instead of bottled or pre-flavored drinks, opt for real, whole ingredients. Prepare your own herbal infusions using ingredients like fresh mint, chamomile, fennel seeds, or ginger slices. These not only offer soothing effects, but allow you to control every element that goes into your drink. No preservatives, no artificial sweeteners, no synthetic acids. Second, become more aware of how your body responds. Try keeping a short journal for a week, noting what you drink and how you feel afterward. You might discover patterns, certain beverages that consistently precede discomfort or urgency. This kind of body awareness is empowering and can help you make changes tailored specifically to your system. The key takeaway here is that the healthiest drink isn't always the one with the most attractive label or trendy branding. It's the one that respects your body's natural balance and supports its ability to heal and regulate. If you've been unknowingly consuming these seemingly healthy drinks and noticing strange symptoms, pressure in your lower abdomen, increased bathroom visits, or nighttime urgency, this could be a sign your bladder is asking for a break. Understanding the hidden risks behind common drinks gives you the clarity to make truly supportive choices. And once you start making those shifts, even small ones, the relief can be noticeable. There's still a deeper layer to uncover. Some of the most common symptoms of swelling and pressure are not only misunderstood, but also routinely ignored. And continuing down that path could invite longer-term consequences. What comes next may help you recognize symptoms you've overlooked and connect the dots to everyday triggers, especially those you never suspected. It's easy to misread the body's signals. A little bloating after a meal, a bit of pressure in the lower abdomen, or frequent urges to urinate, Many people chalk these up to stress, aging, or even just drinking more water. But these could be early indicators of a cycle that's quietly unfolding inside you. A cycle that links what you drink to the way your body reacts, stores, and tries to release that tension. Swelling and pressure in the bladder aren't always the result of one single culprit. More often, they emerge from a pattern, a loop of small, repeated actions that gradually wear down your body's natural defenses. At the center of this loop is a surprising interplay between diet, nervous system tension, and inflammation. When this balance is thrown off, the bladder becomes more reactive. And it doesn't just affect your bathroom habits. It can influence your digestion, your posture, even your mood. Here's how the cycle typically works. You consume a beverage that irritates your bladder lining. That irritation causes swelling, which increases pressure. The pressure sends a signal to your brain that it's time to empty your bladder, even if there's not much there. That constant signaling creates stress. Stress, in turn, amplifies sensitivity throughout the pelvic region. Now your body is on high alert, interpreting mild sensations as discomfort, and discomfort as urgency. Over time, this loop becomes your new normal. This is why many people describe the symptoms as confusing or unpredictable. One day it's tolerable, the next it feels disruptive, but the pattern is there. And once it sets in, it doesn't just go away on its own. You need to interrupt it, gently, consistently, and with awareness. One of the most overlooked elements in this cycle is the way chronic low-grade inflammation affects not just the bladder, but the tissues around it. The pelvic floor muscles, for example, often tighten in response to ongoing bladder discomfort. This tension can lead to a feeling of heaviness or pressure in the lower abdomen. It can also reduce circulation to the area, making healing even more difficult. If left unchecked, it may evolve into what some professionals refer to as pelvic floor dysfunction, where the muscles around the bladder and pelvis are in a constant state of tightness and fatigue. You might be wondering, what does this have to do with beverages? Quite a lot, actually. Because when we consume drinks that are high in irritants, our bladder sends out distress signals. And if those signals come often enough, they start affecting surrounding systems. The body works in interconnected ways. What starts as a fluid imbalance or irritation can evolve into muscle fatigue, nervous system hypersensitivity, and even digestive disturbances. There's something else that often gets missed. Inflammation caused by dietary triggers, including those from beverages, can influence your hormonal regulation, particularly cortisol, your stress hormone. High cortisol levels over time weaken immune response, reduce tissue repair, and contribute to even more swelling. So what started as a reaction to a daily drink can ripple into a much larger issue, affecting how your body heals, manages pain, and responds to everyday stressors. Breaking this cycle means addressing both the trigger and the response. And here's where the empowerment begins. Reducing bladder irritants is a direct step, but equally important is supporting the systems that buffer your body from these stressors. That includes choosing hydrating options that are soothing rather than stimulating. Think naturally: alkaline water, cucumber-infused herbal teas, or even a warm infusion of fennel and licorice root. Gentle, anti-inflammatory options that don't provoke your bladder. You can also support pelvic relaxation through practices like deep diaphragmatic breathing, gentle hip mobility exercises, and stress management techniques like mindfulness or body scans. These may sound simple, but they reset the body's signaling mechanisms. When your body feels safe and supported, the urgency and pressure often begin to subside. And remember, it's not about perfection. It's about patterns. If 80% of your choices support healing and calm, your body will notice. It will start repairing. It will rewire the cycle. The most inspiring part is that you don't need to rely on medication or wait for a diagnosis to start making changes. Your symptoms are your signal. They're not just inconveniences, they're messengers. And listening to them early on gives you a real advantage. But there's one final piece that ties everything together. A specific beverage we haven't named yet. One that's so deeply ingrained in our culture that it rarely gets questioned. And when it's prepared the wrong way or consumed too frequently, it has the potential to undo all the progress you've made. That's what we're going to uncover next. Ignoring it may not only delay your recovery, but introduce complications that are far easier to prevent than to treat. We've followed the thread from everyday irritants to chronic inflammation, from misunderstood symptoms to subtle chemical interactions. Now, it's time to bring it all together. At the heart of this issue lies one of the most consumed beverages in the world, so familiar, so socially accepted that few people ever suspect it could be contributing to pressure, swelling, and chronic discomfort in the bladder. Soda, specifically cola-based soft drinks. Whether labeled as classic, diet, zero, or caffeine-free, colas share a combination of ingredients that are particularly problematic for bladder health. They typically contain caffeine, phosphoric acid, caramel color, artificial sweeteners, or high-fructose corn syrup, and a cocktail of preservatives. Each of these on their own can stress your system, but together, they create a perfect storm. Phosphoric acid, for example, is used to enhance flavor and preserve shelf life, but it also makes the drink more acidic, and that acidity doesn't just stay in your mouth. It influences the pH of your entire urinary tract. An acidic internal environment irritates the bladder lining and undermines the body's ability to maintain balance. Add to that the dehydrating effect of caffeine and the inflammatory nature of processed sugars or artificial sweeteners, and you begin to see why so many people unknowingly experience bladder discomfort as a result of regular soda consumption. And it's not just the ingredients, it's how they're consumed. Many people drink soda daily, sometimes multiple times a day, often with meals, sometimes on an empty stomach. And few pause to consider the cumulative toll. The body has to work overtime to buffer the acid, process the chemicals, and manage the fluid shifts that follow. Over time, this can exhaust the very systems that keep the bladder stable and calm. But here's the transformative part. The moment you remove or reduce soda from your routine, things start to shift. Within days, many people report less bloating, fewer bathroom visits, and a lightness they didn't realize was missing. It's as if the body finally gets a break and starts catching up on the healing it's been trying to do all along. Still, cutting soda is only part of the equation. What you replace it with matters just as much. Instead of reaching for flavored, bottled options, try preparing your own restorative beverage at home. Here's a recipe that supports bladder health and encourages anti-inflammatory repair. Use 1 teaspoon of coriander seeds, a few slices of fresh ginger, and a tablespoon of dried chamomile flowers. Add these to warm, not boiling water and let it steep for about 10 minutes. The goal is to extract the beneficial oils without damaging the delicate compounds. Strain and sip slowly. This infusion calms the digestive and urinary systems, reduces internal acidity, and gently supports detoxification. For an added bonus, especially in the evenings, add a teaspoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. This small addition can help balance pH, support your microbiome, and amplify the anti-inflammatory properties of the herbs. This isn't about restriction, it's about replacement. When you give your body nourishing alternatives, the desire for acidic, high-sugar beverages begins to fade naturally. Your taste buds recalibrate, your energy stabilizes, and your bladder thanks you. Perhaps the most inspiring part is the ripple effect. People often start with bladder relief and quickly notice clearer skin, improved sleep, and even reduced joint pain. That's the beauty of approaching health through support rather than suppression. Knowledge is power, but only if applied. The steps we've explored aren't dramatic. They're practical, accessible, and rooted in respect for the body's natural wisdom. When we listen, when we adjust with intention, healing follows. So here's what I'd love for you to take away. Small shifts can yield big results. That drink you once reached for without a second thought might have been slowing you down more than you realized. But now, you have tools, you have alternatives, and most importantly, you have awareness. If this information has helped you, consider sharing it with someone else who might be silently dealing with similar symptoms. Like, comment, or subscribe to stay connected with more insights just like this. Because real health starts with shared knowledge, and together we can raise the standard for everyday wellness.